as my name suggests, my Hungarian is not all that good, so I'll have to do this in English. Is there anybody here who doesn't speak English? Okay, good. We got that covered. Ooh, one person. Okay, this is good education for you then. So we've been talking innovation, and I've been seeing interesting things. Even Darwin speaks Hungarian here, so that's wonderful. So some of the slides I could read, so some interesting topics. Let me put that into perspective a little bit. I will give you, so I was invited to talk about this. How do you transform your company into that digital-first machine capable of continuously innovating? And that sounds great, right? That sounds like a wonderful goal. We would all want that. We all think, oh, if only we could go back to our own business tomorrow or Monday, and then miraculously it would be this engine of continuous innovation. Sounds good. Anybody want to sign up for that? Why? Seems like a stupid question because it seems like such a logical thing to want, right? It's like, of course I want that. Of course I need an innovative company. Of course that's the biggest goal I can achieve. But why, really? Seriously? Can you really put into words why this is so urgent and important for you to now spend significant amounts of time, attention, and money on? Sometimes companies don't. I speak to companies hundreds of times a month, calls and visits and conferences, and you'd be amazed how often you ask this question and they kind of blankly stare at you and they say, because it's in our strategy. Okay. But I really want to understand the deep drivers and deep motivations, why that is important. And I'll tell you later why that is so important to know. Of course, there's a sort of conceptual reason to do this. For one, there's always new stuff happening. This is the Gartner hype cycle. Who here is not familiar with the Gartner hype cycle? Perfect. You're at the right conference here. So this is the latest one. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is something that you can pick here. This is what's hot today. This is still at the top here. Deep learning, machine learning, things around machine intelligence. We're kind of very disappointed about augmented reality today. People say about augmented reality, yeah, it's not really delivering on what we thought it would, but then it's going to take off, and within a couple of years, it's going to be there at the platform of productivity where you can actually use it. And this keeps going, right? Every year there's a new hype cycle. All these new trends, new innovations, they keep coming at you, and somehow you need to deal with that. That is changing society. That is changing how the world works. That is changing what your company looks like, and you have to address that. But if I analyze a little bit more closely what companies are doing today, they're actually doing, I would say, two things. On the one end, they are becoming digital. We came out of a crisis, companies woke up, looked outside, and they thought, wait a minute, the world has become digital. So they want to become digital. You want to examine what you do and become digital. At the other side, they realized apparently there's a gap in our innovation. So the other thing they want to do is get better at innovation, which is get better at finding ideas and turning them into real change so that your company keeps changing and changing and changing with whatever happens. And now it's digital, but maybe next is nanotechnology, augmented humans, designed bio, big international trends. We don't know what's coming, but the two are kind of different. And we usually throw them in one, and then we try to solve everything in one go. We say, we need to become digital and be better at innovating and do everything in one type of program, and that messes things up greatly, because then we don't really know what we're doing. Because becoming digital is not that hard. Becoming digital is simply reanalyze your company and put it in the time of today. You just look at what's the reality of today, and then you say, okay, where's the gaps? You try to see what has changed. So if something was very expensive in the past, but now it's almost free, all right, probably we should do something with that. If something was impossible in the past, but it's extremely easy today, perhaps we should do something with that. So these are the hidden assumptions that underlie your current business or business model or your current market or current operating model, and that's what you need to address. Or you can ask for what I call magic wands and crystal balls. If I go into the organization and I say, here's a crystal ball and a magic wand. Tell me everything you would like to know and everything you would like to change. And I just go ask people everywhere. And then I can turn around and say, okay, let's make it. Because the state of technology is now at this level that we can probably deliver on most of the promises. If you want to know, I don't know, if you're working in a bakery and you want to know the temperature of the person selling the bread at the moment she wakes up, if that's important for your business, we can know it, we can analyze it, we can put it in a database and do trend analysis on it. So you can know stuff, you can influence stuff. You can create scenarios, you can make things digital, you can automate whatever you want to automate, and you can explore digital business models, which is, instead of a traditional model, perhaps we want to do platforms, or we want to do shared things, or perhaps we want to do peer-to-peer things, or perhaps we want to completely obliterate parts of our business that have become completely automated. So that is to become digital. The harder part is this getting better at innovation, because that's really changing the fabric of your organization. And there's a reason for that. If we look at where technology is, you can do innovation in lots of ways. You can do innovation episodically, which means every now and then you do something and then you're done. Or you can do it continuously. Or you can be an order taker innovator, which is you just wait for somebody to ask you for something and then you go build it. Or you can be very risk-taking, which is I look for opportunities and I look for ways to improve the organization. I look for ways to change what we're doing, which is risk-taking. We can do incremental innovation, which is we kind of keep doing what we're doing and we do it slightly better all the time. Or we can be highly disruptive, where we say we need to do something radically different. We need to step into a new way of working. We need to step into a new market. And with these new technologies, all these sliders shift to the right. Innovation is becoming more disruptive, it's more risk-taking, and it's becoming continuous. So, short time, so I've summarized sort of 5 lessons, 5 important takeaways, things that you can do to really become more innovative. The number 1 is give meaning to the concept of innovation. Innovation is in the end an empty term. We don't really know what that means. If you say, I head up innovation, I don't really know what you're doing. If you say, we have been innovating greatly in the past, I want to know what you've done. What have you built? What are you creating? What value are you creating? If you want to create an innovative company, you have to start talking about what that means for your company. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to work in new ways or create new products or deliver new values or enter new industries or address a new geography or perhaps talk to a different demographic in society? Talk to me about what innovation really means. If you do that, then you'll get passion and engagement and excitement in people. That's when it becomes real. That's when people really start to understand what innovation is all about. Second lesson, you have to define your innovation process. And that's really maturing your innovation. We have been innovating up to today. Otherwise, you would not be in business today. If you have not been innovating, you'd be either irrelevant in a business context or out of business in a commercial context. So, what do we mean? You need to know where you get your ideas. You need to know how you select your ideas. You need to know how you test and validate your ideas using lean startup or DevOps or Agile or startup-like activities or with partners. I don't really care how you do it, but you have to have a view of how you do that so that you can make conscious decisions based on your strategy. It's no longer a time where you can just sit back and wait for, every now and then, a good new idea to come to the top and then suddenly be a new service. Is it the same in your organization that ideas from the top management somehow always have a better chance of being implemented than ideas from the bottom? As if they have better ideas for some reason? Which of course is not true. We accept that and say, well, the CEO had a great idea. Oh, yep, let's all do it. that's probably not the best innovation process that you want to have. You probably want to have some sort of analysis along the way and validate ideas and say, okay, well, thank you, CEO, is a really great idea, but we're not going to do it because the guy at the support desk had an even better idea. Let's go with that one. So you have to find out how it works and perhaps change it to make it more mature. And then you have ideas and stuff, but then, of course, you want to change. I mean, innovation is about change. It's about doing new stuff to create value. So how do we do that? How do we create that continuous engine for change? Well, for one, stop thinking in projects and start thinking in products. Stop thinking in things that have a beginning and an end and start thinking in things that are continuous in iterations. And that has resonance. If you look at how you organize IT, there are lots of underlying principles that we now have learned. We have learned things like you have to do good knowledge management so that you're not dependent on individual heroes. So let people learn from each other. We have learned in IT that we need to automate what we can automate so that we can move changes quickly through the cycle. Because it's crazy if you do a change in technology that you have to wait for a release window that is perhaps a month from now. It doesn't make sense. If you want to automate things continuously, you want to know when you're going the right and the wrong direction, so you want to measure business outcomes and use them to validate your activities. All these underlying principles we recognize as DevOps or Agile or perhaps Lean Startup, and there's design thinking, and they're all true. But don't hunt for the names. Don't go read the book and say, oh, well, we follow the book. No, you follow the principles that are hidden in there, and then you just implement them one by one. Extreme customer focus, knowledge sharing, measuring business outcomes, automation, using standard platforms and tools, all these sort of best practices that we all know, just keep moving in the right direction. And then over time, you'll notice you have more and more of this continuous innovation engine. The essence of that being focus on the end goal and lowering the barriers between entities in your organization. All this only works when people kind of get it, when there's this culture of innovation. Because if I'm an IT manager and I turn my IT department in the greatest agile delivery entity that exists, and the rest of the organization doesn't care because they still want to write big requirements documents and then throw them over a wall and say, come back when it's finished, it kind of dies, right? And we've all done that. I think most organizations that start with agile do it like this. The IT team is agile and the business is not. So you're not really agile. You're playing around with words, you're teaching new skills, but you're not agile. Agile is when you really start to integrate these things and iterate with the business included. And that works when there's a culture, and that's when you go back to that why question. Why are we innovating? People have to understand that. The business have to understand this is really important what we're doing. We need an organization to be innovative. We need new ideas. We need acceleration of innovation. We need this specific innovation. If we're coming up with a new product, it's not because the IT guys discovered a cool new tool called artificial intelligence and thought it would be nice to come up with a proof of concept. No, it's embedded in our strategy, in our vision, in our ambition, and in our understanding of who we want to be as an organization. And when that tie exists, everything becomes easier. You get support, you get acceptance, and you can actually change the organization. Can you change a culture? Oh, yes, you can. If your culture is kind of old-fashioned and not moving, you can do lots of things that are small and highly visible and emotional that impact culture. You can ask questions in a different way, have meetings in different places, invite other people to host meetings for you. You can give tiny rewards for people that exhibit the right behavior. You can open doors. You can have meetings in the cafeteria if you want to. You can hire some young people instead of some seniors with lots of resume. You can do a million things that are tiny, but when you add them all up, the culture starts to shift. We call that culture hacking. It's a fun thing to do, and you will really see results when you do. And then 5, the last one, you have to lead. You cannot manage your way to this type of change. You have to really have a vision and speak about it in a good and positive way. I spoke to one innovation manager, and she was having the hardest time changing the organization. I had a 1-hour conversation with her, and I quickly realized what the problem was. The problem was that she didn't believe in innovation. Every word she said was about, we as an organization are not so innovative. We are not ready to change. We are a government entity, so we are predestined to be old-fashioned. And she kept saying that. In every other paragraph, she kept saying that, also in conversations with our colleagues. And every time you say it, it becomes more true. Every time somebody in the organization says something like that, your culture becomes less innovative. So, as a good lesson or thought to take home is, never say this again. I don't care how old-fashioned your company is, stop saying it. Start saying things like, we are becoming more innovative every day. We have better understanding of where we need to be every day. I'm seeing more examples of people that want to change who we are every day. If you speak of positive things start to happen. And that's really a leadership activity. You have to take ownership of that. And it doesn't matter if it's your role, if you're responsible for innovation, or you're the CIO, or the chief, or the chairman, that's not important. Because what sells is your vision, your story, the narrative that you bring to an organization. And with that, I've slightly run over time. I had quite a few more lessons to share, but I'll be around a little bit. So feel free to look me up, ask about any of these, ask about your specific situation, and I'd love to have a conversation with you or practice your English if that's up for practice. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of the conference here.